On March 20th, 2025, federal park rangers with the Ozark National Scenic Riverways, a unit of the National Park System that extends over several counties in southern Missouri, conducted a traffic stop outside of the park's boundaries in Shannon County. During the traffic stop, the rangers were approached by a deputy with the Shannon County Sheriff's Office. The interaction that followed was captured on a ranger's body camera.
Hi there. Could you do me a favor and roll down all your windows for me? Move it?
Kind of, sort of, not exactly. I downsized so I can get
Okay, I got you. I'm off the National Park Service. The reason why I pulled you over is you've got a brake light out and your registration's expired. You know about that?
Yep.
Scalloped potatoes? So what's in all the boxes?
They're all empty right
They're all
now.
empty. Oh, you don't have to go reaching for them. It's all good.
Like I said, I downsized from like a normal
Yeah.
house to a 300 square foot house, so I'm in the process of sorting through everything and getting rid of a bunch.
I got you. All right. No marijuana or anything like that in the vehicle?
Alrighty.
What's happening? What's going on? What's going on? Nice to meet you.
What's going on?
I just got cleared on a traffic stop.
Okay. Why are you guys doing a traffic stop out here?
This was a safe spot to pull him over, get around traffic by the time we caught up to her.
How far did you come?
Alley. Yeah.
Okay.
Violation was in alley inside the park boundary.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
by the time I went around,
here.
what's that? We had to go around vehicles. Okay, and this was a safe spot to get them off of the highway. Safe spot to conduct the stop and for us.
Okay. So long story short, I was told by the prosecutor and the sheriff that you guys are out here making traffic stops outside of the park. You guys are going to jail. We understand that you guys can make a traffic stop outside of the park.
Okay.
If you're following them for something happened inside the park. There's no reason to follow them this damn far outside of the park.
If you would listen, I said that I had to get around vehicles. Okay? By the time I caught up to them, we're in curves. Okay?
Okay.
This was the next best space for me to make sure that we were both off of the public roadway and we were both safe. Does that make sense?
I am trying to just get what I need across to you, okay? For the prosecutor in this county, it's not happening anymore.
What's
Okay.
not happening?
You are not making traffic stops outside of your jurisdiction anymore.
He doesn't dictate the law for the federal side, okay?
You want to call him and talk to him about
We
that?
know him.
We will.
Call him and talk to him. Tell him. I can't make you do anything. But think about this. This is only going to escalate. So do your best to try to keep your stops on your
This
own
is
land.
this is the first time I've made it even remotely this far.
Okay.
And that's just because of the stuff that we ran into this time. 9 times out of 10, it happens at E Highway if we're coming this way, if I can't get them at Harvey's.
Okay. I mean, I know
We
you
try to
guys
keep
know
stops
I'm new
inside
out
the
here.
park. Okay, we try to
Right.
keep stops inside the park. But a lot of times, the safest spot, and that's what I try to do. Safest for me, safest for who I'm pulling over, right?
Right.
Okay, safety is my number one thing. So if I can't do it safely, I wait until I find the safest spot.
I can't
'Cause you-
discount that is a reasonable thing.
Because, as you see, these roads, we don't have shoulders, okay?
Right.
Blind curves, I don't want to get rear-ended, I don't want to get hit, and I don't want anybody else to.
The ranger explains that the violation occurred inside the park, but that by the time the ranger caught up to the driver after navigating around traffic, the vehicle had traveled outside park boundaries, and the ranger chose that location as the nearest safe spot to conduct the stop off the public roadway. Ozark National Scenic Riverways Rangers are designated federal law enforcement officers under Section 102701 of Title 54 of the U.S. Code, which allows the Secretary of the Interior to designate officers to maintain law and order within units of the National Park System. The statute also authorizes rangers to make warrantless arrests for offenses against the United States committed in their presence, as long as the arrest occurs within the park or the individual pursued is fleeing from the park to avoid arrest. In the 2001 case of United States v. Fox, a federal district court in the Northern District of California held that a driver who failed to stop in response to an officer's flashing lights while still inside the Presidio National Park, traveling approximately 200 yards through the park before stopping just outside its boundaries, boundary was fleeing to avoid arrest within the meaning of the statute, and therefore that the stop was lawful, reasoning that the statute does not require a high-speed chase to the park's border. Now, on the other hand, in the 2006 case of United States v. Jones, a federal district court in the Western District of Virginia reached the opposite conclusion, where officers did not activate their lights until after the vehicle had already exited the park, finding that there was no evidence that the defendant knew or had reason to know he was being pursued before leaving the park, and that without such knowledge, the fleeing exception cannot apply. Well, here, if the ranger activated signals while the vehicle was still within park boundaries and the driver continued moving until exiting the park, the stop likely falls within the ranger's lawful authority. However, if the ranger did not initiate the stop until after they had already left the park, the jurisdictional basis for the stop is considerably weaker. After the confrontation at the initial traffic stop, another county officer initiated a traffic stop on a different park ranger while he was driving outside of the park. That encounter was also recorded on the ranger's body camera.
Being pulled over by a county deputy, Highway 60, between Burr Street and Winona. Go ahead and call 200 for me.
251.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Man, I'm trying to find out who did a traffic stop in Eminence earlier by the school.
Okay.
I put a call in to have a supervisor call me, and that was like 30 minutes ago, and I've not heard back from anybody.
Okay. The chief has gone home for the day.
Okay, do you know who made that traffic stop?
There was a deputy there.
That doesn't answer my question.
Yeah, I do know who it was.
Who was it?
Who was the deputy who went there?
I'm assuming it was probably the detective.
Okay. Well, the detective would have all the information. They spoke together.
Yeah, I was just tasked with figuring it out because apparently he's not doing it right. So that's the only reason I was checking.
The county officer states that he pulled the ranger over in an attempt to identify the ranger who had conducted the earlier traffic stop. As federal law enforcement officers, park rangers operating government vehicles on public roads are subject to the same rules of the road as any other driver, and by extension, they retain the same Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable seizures as any other motorist. A traffic stop is a seizure within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment, regardless of the occupant's law enforcement status, and the constitutional requirements for initiating one do not vary based on who is behind the wheel. In the 1979 case of Delaware v. Prowse, the Supreme Court determined that stopping an automobile and detaining its driver is unreasonable absent at least reasonable articulable suspicion of a legal violation. And in the 1996 case of Wren v. United States, the court held that a traffic stop is lawful when officers have probable cause to believe that a traffic offense occurred. Here, the officer's stated purpose for the stop was not to address any traffic violation or unlawful conduct by the ranger that he pulled over, but simply to ask that ranger a question about a third party. Wanting to ask a question does not supply reasonable suspicion of a traffic violation or any other offense. And absent some independent basis for the stop, initiating a traffic stop solely to obtain information that the officer wanted would not satisfy the Fourth Amendment's requirements. Therefore, it is likely that a court would conclude that the county officer's stop of the park ranger was an unreasonable seizure in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
What is the issue?
Well, you guys don't have jurisdiction in the county.
Okay. We do have jurisdiction in this county. We have authority in this county. And when my officer or any officer sees a violation in their jurisdiction, they can stop them.
So outside the park?
You can stop in Howell County if you see a violation in Shannon County.
Only if it's a felony.
Well, as a county officer, that may be true. As a federal officer,
as a post-certified officer,
okay,
in the state of Missouri.
Okay.
So the sheriff has made it very clear.
You're talking about apples and oranges.
I'm telling you, the sheriff wants it made very clear you guys are not to stop anybody in the county.
Okay, well, then he can tell us that. So, we are going to keep doing our job in the park when it's safer to pull someone over.
The statutes clearly state you guys have zero jurisdiction out here.
We got to pass from piece to piece, right? We got to go in and out of the park. We got to go through the county. We work in 4 different counties.
I understand that 100%.
And you're thinking about post. You're thinking about state stuff. You're thinking about county. We're federal officers.
But even reading
the park
your
is
federal
134 miles long. So we're in and out of the county. We're in Carter, Dent, Howell. And yeah, sometimes you need to stop people in a safe place, and sometimes it's outside of the boundary of the park.
That's a big boundary, boss.
It is a big boundary. It's 80 some odd thousand acres, 134 miles long. There, I don't know what that happened there today.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I end up stopping people outside of the park all the time. That's just a safe way to do it. And our authority, our jurisdiction allows us to do that. I don't know about state law. That's down there. I don't
Reading
know.
your guys' statute, it says you're not, unless it's a felony.
No. Witnessed misdemeanors. We can act on. Felonies, yeah, anyone can do that. Witnessed misdemeanors and infractions, we have the authority to follow and investigate that.
Oh, I get it.
Okay.
We'll get it figured out.
All right.
His name was...
My chief ranger. I wasn't on that
No,
stop.
the one that made the
There
stop.
were officers there. I don't know who all was there.
What was your guy's name that was on the stop?
His name is... He is post-certified, by the way.
Okay. All right, man. I'll let you get back to it.
After discussing the initial traffic stop and debating jurisdiction, the ranger and the deputy both drove away without further incident. It is unknown whether either department faced any consequences as a result of this encounter. Overall, the Ozark National Scenic Riverways Rangers get an A- for handling a legally uncertain jurisdictional confrontation with professionalism and restraint, cooperating fully with the second deputy's stop despite its constitutional infirmity, and articulating a legally grounded explanation for conducting the stop outside park boundaries. As discussed earlier, whether the initial traffic stop was lawful turns on when the ranger activated signals relative to the park boundary, and that fact is not established either way by the available footage. What is clear is that the ranger offered a coherent, good faith explanation rooted in officer safety and traffic conditions, which, if the stop was initiated inside the park, aligns with the ranger's authority. Throughout the confrontation with the first deputy, the rangers remained calm, declined to escalate, and respectfully pushed back on the deputy's assertions regarding federal law enforcement limitations. Likewise, when the second deputy initiated a stop that lacked any articulable basis under the Fourth Amendment, the ranger subject to that stop complied without resistance and attempted to assist the deputy in obtaining the information that he was seeking, demonstrating a level of professional restraint that went beyond what the law required of him. I commend the rangers for maintaining composure and legal clarity under sustained pressure from the county deputies and extending professional courtesy throughout two confrontational exchanges. The Shannon County deputies get a C for approaching the rangers in a confrontational and accusatory manner disproportionate to the circumstances, mischaracterizing the scope of federal law enforcement authority in a way that undermined the rangers' lawful jurisdiction, and initiating a traffic stop on a park ranger that lacked any articulable constitutional basis. The first deputy's approach to the rangers at the initial traffic stop was accusatory from the outset, and his insistence that rangers had no authority to stop anyone outside park boundaries did not account for the so-called fleeing exception that federal law expressly provides. While the deputy's underlying concern about extraterritorial stops was not entirely without merit, given the genuine legal uncertainty surrounding the initial stop, threatening the rangers with arrest was a disproportionate response to what was at most an unsettled jurisdictional question between two law enforcement agencies. Now, the second deputy's conduct is more straightforwardly problematic. The Fourth Amendment requires that a traffic stop be supported by at least reasonable articulable suspicion of a legal violation, and the second deputy's stated reason for the stop was not that he observed any traffic infraction or unlawful conduct by the ranger that he pulled over, but that he had grown impatient waiting for a callback and decided to flag down a ranger himself to obtain the name of the ranger who had conducted the earlier traffic stop. That is not a lawful basis for a traffic stop under any standard, and pulling over the ranger to ask him a question likely constituted an unreasonable seizure under the Fourth Amendment. This interaction highlights how a jurisdictional disagreement between agencies, however legitimate the underlying concern, can spiral into conduct far more problematic than the dispute that prompted it when officers respond in disproportionate manner to the situation at hand. On August 25th, 2022, two unidentified police officers from the Molina Police Department in Molina, Georgia, pulled over Chief Jonathan Hempill of the nearby Zebulon Police Department. The interaction between the three officers was captured by the body-worn camera of one of the Molina officers.
What are you doing? Here, you go out. Make contact with me.
Say hello. Was that illegal?
No, no, sir. The reason why we're stopping you is because it's a window tint violation.
I blinked my blue lights at you to let you know who I was.
Yes, sir. Well, we didn't know with it. That's not a government tag.
That is a unofficial tag. Okay. That tag's not even on file.
I see. Yeah. Well, we have to catch up the bill to run it and everything like that, sir. So
I won't blink my blue lights at you next time. I'll let you just sit there. I was just speaking. I'm the police chief in Zebulon.
Well, nice to meet you, sir.
Matt Polk worked for me. Your chief worked for me.
Yes, sir. There's no need to get upset.
I'm upset because I spoke to you when I come by, and now you're pulling me over.
After the Molina officers pulled him over, Chief Hempill got out of his vehicle and approached them before they had even exited their cruiser. Although the universal advice given by law enforcement agencies and civil rights advocates alike is for drivers and passengers to remain in the vehicle unless the officer asks them to exit the vehicle, it is typically not illegal for individuals to exit their vehicles during a traffic stop. However, drivers can be convicted of disobeying a lawful order or a similar offense, such as resisting or obstructing an officer, if an officer orders them to remain in the vehicle and they refuse. As we have discussed before on ATA, the Supreme Court held in the 1977 case of Pennsylvania versus Mims that officers may order a driver to exit a vehicle during a routine traffic stop. And in the 1997 case of Maryland versus Wilson, the court determined that the same was true for passengers. In reaching this decision, the court reasoned that, quote, "The touchstone of our analysis under the Fourth Amendment is always the reasonableness in all the circumstances of the particular governmental invasion of a citizen's personal security. And that reasonableness depends on a balance between the public interest and the individual's right to personal security, free from arbitrary interference by law officers." Applying this test, the court ultimately concluded that the so-called weighty interest in officer safety outweighed the so-called de minimis intrusion of requiring an individual in a lawfully stopped vehicle to step outside for the duration of the traffic stop. Although the Supreme Court has not determined whether an officer may order an individual to remain in a vehicle during a traffic stop, courts have consistently relied on the arguments in the Mims and Wilson cases to conclude that such directives are constitutional. For instance, in the 1997 case of Carter versus State, the Court of Appeals of Georgia applied the logic used in the then recently decided Wilson case to hold that, quote, "Officer safety is sufficient justification to allow an officer to order a passenger to remain in a validly stopped vehicle." Likewise, in the 2005 case of United States versus Williams, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decided that because, quote, "giving officers the authority to control all movement in a traffic encounter is sensibly consistent with the public interest in protecting their safety, under the Fourth Amendment, it is reasonable for an officer to order a passenger back into an automobile that he voluntarily exited, because the concerns for officer safety, and specifically the need for officers to exercise control over individuals encountered during a traffic stop, outweigh the marginal intrusion on the passenger's liberty interest." Here, while Chief Hempill did not violate the law by exiting his vehicle, a court would very likely hold that the Molina officers would have been within their constitutional authority to order him to return to it and remain inside.
I never met you a day in my life.
I understand that.
Right.
Why are you being hostile?
Easy. I don't have to talk to you.
Okay.
Easy. I'm not talking to you.
Why are you being hostile right now?
Are y'all gonna write me a ticket? Are you gonna write me a ticket?
Sir, we're just trying.
I'm the police chief in Zebulon. Do you wanna write me a ticket?
Why are you coming up to me like that? I'm doing my job, right?
What are you stopping for?
I'm stopping you for one. The window tints dark. You
I have
flashed your
blue
blue
lights in my car.
Okay, you know how many officers have blue lights in
Are
their
you
vehicle?
writing me a ticket? Yes or no?
I'm conducting my best.
Are you writing me a ticket? I'm fixing to leave.
Do you have your driver's license?
Sure, I have my driver's license.
Literally. I don't know why you're
I have my driver's license. I'm fixing to make it a whole lot more. Your boss works.
11:11. I'm out here with Illinois.
Stand off me just like anybody else. Pull it over, okay? Thank you.
Where's my license?
The Molina officers explained they pulled Chief Hempill over for having dark window tint and flashing his blue lights. According to Section 40-8-73.1 of the Georgia Code, quote, "It shall be unlawful for any person to operate a motor vehicle in this state which has material and glazing applied or affixed to the front windshield, which material and glazing, when so applied or affixed, reduce light transmission through the windshield, or which has material and glazing applied or affixed to the rear windshield or the side side or door windows, which material and glazing, when so applied or affixed, reduce light transmission through the windshield or window to less than 32%, plus or minus 3%, or increase light reflectance to more than 20%. Although the statute clarifies that, quote, the provisions of this section shall not apply to any law enforcement vehicle, because Chief Hempill's vehicle was equipped with an unregistered so-called ghost tag, as we will discuss in further detail later in this episode, a court would likely conclude that the Molina officers had the reasonable suspicion necessary to conduct the traffic stop based solely on the tint, as his license plates did not indicate that he was a law enforcement officer. And in the 2013 case of Walker versus State, the Court of Appeals of Georgia held that an officer could stop a vehicle for a suspected window tint violation without infringing upon the Fourth Amendment. Likewise, Section 40-8-90 of the Georgia Code states that, quote, it shall be unlawful for any person to operate any motor vehicle equipped with or containing a device capable of producing any blue lights, whether flashing, blinking, revolving, or stationary, except motor vehicles owned or leased by any federal, state, or local law enforcement agency, motor vehicles with a permit granted by a state agency to bear such lights, or antique, hobby, and special interest vehicles. Assuming that the vehicle Chief Hempill was driving was owned by the Zebulon Police Department, it is highly likely that the blue lights did not violate state law. However, because the Molina officers had no way of knowing that the vehicle was owned or leased by a local law enforcement agency, and thereby accepted from the prohibition on blue lights, it is also probable that they had sufficient grounds to conduct the traffic stop.
Machine Construction Company out of Losersville. Registration showed expired, valid insurance, negative 99.
Yeah, that's what I was explaining.
I don't want anything else from you.
Okay.
You let her do her job.
It doesn't come back to that vehicle.
That's 28 returns, no vehicle found, negative 99.
Okay.
11-8, below 11. Make sure you're recording.
Yeah. What?
She's about bringing your driver's license back up.
That's fine.
Yeah. First when we ran the tag, it came back to like a Dodge Ram, so we're just confirming it's not. Yes, sir.
It's a ghost tag.
Yes, sir. We're
making
making
sure anything back with that tag.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're just.
You must have run it wrong. You must have run it wrong because you want to come back to a Dodge Ram.
We were confirmed it. They let us know and everything.
So it's still coming back to a Dodge Ram now?
Sir, can I ask why you're so upset?
Is it still coming back to a Dodge Ram now?
No, we got it fixed. Why are you so upset?
No, you didn't fix it. Is it still coming back to a Dodge Ram right now?
No, it came back 905.
That's right, because you run it wrong.
Sir.
Somebody run it wrong. Either you did or they did.
We're about to get the information.
Okay, I got your chief on the phone right now. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Can you calm down for us, please?
I appreciate your service. I appreciate your service.
All right.
I'm just saying, I spoke to you guys. I didn't have to do that. I could have eased on by y'all. I appreciate the job y'all out here doing.
Chief, I'm trying to be respectful with you.
I understand that. I understand.
I'm not raising my voice or nothing at you, right?
I understand.
All right, let's.
But I'm trying to tell you, the only thing I'd done wrong was spoke. Y'all never would have pulled me over if I hadn't flicked my blue lights.
No, sir. No, we were going to pull you. Actually, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm telling you straight up. Okay.
Okay. All right.
But like I said, there's people out here impersonating police officer with blue lights.
Or you threw my license. She threw my license. If she is getting them for me,
she'll bring it to you, sir.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to talk with you.
I don't want to talk anymore about it.
All righty.
The Molina officer explains that after originally running the plates incorrectly, when dispatch ran the plates on the vehicle, it came back as not on file, and Chief Hempill claims that it's because the vehicle is equipped with an unofficial ghost tag, which means it is not registered. Under Section 40-2-20 of the Georgia Code, quote, every owner of a motor vehicle shall, during the owner's registration period in each year, register such vehicle as provided in this chapter, and obtain a license to operate it for the 12-month period until such person's next registration period. Nonetheless, this requirement does not apply to, quote, any motor vehicle owned by the state or any municipality or other political subdivision of this state and used exclusively for governmental functions, except to the extent provided by Code Section 40-2-37, which states that, quote, all vehicles owned by the state of Georgia or any municipality or other political subdivision of this state and used exclusively for governmental functions, except those employed in secret investigatory police functions to which regular Georgia license plates are issued, shall shall be registered with the Commissioner by the fiscal officers or other proper officials of the respective departments to which such vehicles belong prior to operation and use thereof. Once a police vehicle is registered, quote, the license plates issued shall be identical in appearance to regular license plates issued for private vehicles, except that such license plates shall not display any registration expiration. However, the statute also requires that, quote, license plates issued to government vehicles shall be marked in such a manner as to indicate the specific type of governmental unit operating the vehicle. These markings shall be prominently displayed. In addition, each such license plate shall bear a county identification strip indicating the county in which the vehicle is based, except that vehicles owned by the state shall not be required to bear such county identification strip. The statute does allow for an exception to this rule, stating that, quote, the Commissioner shall be authorized to grant a waiver of the requirements of this subsection such that regular Georgia license plates may be issued for any vehicle or vehicles owned by the state of Georgia, any municipality of this state, or any other political subdivision of this state upon finding issuance of such waiver to be in the best interest of public safety, public welfare, or efficient administration. It is unclear whether Chief Hempill has obtained such a waiver for the vehicle he was driving. But even if he has, it is important to note that this exception only applies to subsection C of the statute, which is the requirement that the license plate be marked to indicate the government unit operating the vehicle, and does not apply to the requirement that government vehicles be registered. The only potentially applicable exception to the registration requirement that would allow Chief Hempill to use unregistered ghost plates is for government vehicles that are engaged in so-called secret investigatory police functions, which are typically outside the scope of a police chief's duties.
It's very unprofessional.
After running Chief Hempill's driver's license, the Molina officers returned it to him and allowed him to leave without issuing any citations. However, 5 days after the incident, Chief Hempill broke a digital radio agreement that permitted Molina to use Zebulon's emergency radio channel by blocking Molina from using the frequency, according to Molina Chief Matt Polk. The Molina Police Department is now using the Pike County Sheriff's Office channel for emergency communications. On October 11th, 2022, the city of Zebulon announced that it was launching an independent third-party investigation into Chief Hempill's conduct. As of the date of writing this episode, the city has not provided any updates regarding the results of this investigation. But Chief Hempill is still listed as the police chief on the city of Zebulon's website. Overall, the Molina officers get an A for demonstrating professional and respectful demeanors throughout the encounter, despite receiving a significant amount of disrespect from Chief Hempill, refusing to give Chief Hempill any special treatment based on his status, and making a lawful traffic stop based on the information available to them at the time of the stop. Chief Hempill gets a C- for maintaining a hostile and disrespectful demeanor in his interactions with the Molina officers, potentially misusing ghost plates on a non-undercover vehicle, and retaliating against the entire Molina Police Department by revoking their access to Zebulon's emergency radio channel. In a video posted on June 24th, 2023, Officer Sidoti of the Cleveland Clinic Police Department stopped local resident Keith Golston during a workout in the Cleveland Clinic parking lot in Cleveland, Ohio, after receiving a report that an individual matching his description was looking in vehicles. Officer Sidoti grabbed Mr. Golston's arm to physically detain him, and Mr. Golston began to film the encounter.
You're about to get a lawsuit.
I got a call that you're looking through people's cars and
You're about to get a lawsuit.
You fit the description.
You have no
Red t-shirt,
legal
white
right.
shorts.
You have no legal right
Call that you're looking through
to
people's
put
cars.
your hands on me.
Sir.
This
Sir.
is an assault.
Sir.
What's your name and badge number?
Sir, can you please turn around?
What's your name and badge number?
Officer Sidoti, 190.
You're about to get
What's
a
your
lawsuit.
name, sir?
You have no legal right to ask me my name.
Sir, we got a call
or to
that
put
you're
your
looking
hands
through
on
people's
me.
vehicles. All right, and you won't identify yourself, you wouldn't stop, and you're on
You have
private
no
property.
legal right to identify me.
We got a call that he was looking at people's vehicles, and he wouldn't stop.
This character saw me up on the hill exercising, going through the lot. He started his car. He was up there sleeping or reading or something. Follow me down and stop me over here. I exercise here every day.
Okay. I'm here.
He put his hands on me
I've never
with
seen
no legal reason.
We got a call. That
I got it on film.
Okay.
What's your name, officer?
You have an ID on you? Officer Buchanan.
Look, he has no reason to ID me. No legal reason. You all about to get a huge lawsuit. I got him on camera assaulting me for no legal reason.
Mr. Golston argues that Officer Sidoti had no legal reason to detain and identify him, and that Officer Sidoti assaulted him by putting his hands on him. According to Ohio's Stop and Identify law, which is codified in Section 2921.29 of the Ohio Revised Code, quote, "No person who is in a public place shall refuse to disclose the person's name, address, or date of birth when requested by a law enforcement officer who reasonably suspects the person is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a criminal offense." In the 2023 case of State versus Blair, the Second District Court of Appeals of Ohio concluded that for the purposes of this statute, quote, "A public place is somewhere ordinary citizens are regularly permitted to be." And in the 2017 case of State versus DC, the same court determined that an individual was in a public place for the purposes of this statute when he was asked to identify himself in the parking lot of a closed business. We will discuss whether Officer Sidoti had reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Golston later in this episode, but for now, it is important to note that a court would probably find that the parking lot qualified as a public place under Ohio's Stop and Identify statute, even though he was on privately owned property, and that Mr. Golston was therefore required to identify himself if Officer Sidoti had reasonable suspicion that he was involved in criminal activity. Additionally, regarding Mr. Golston's allegations that Officer Sidoti assaulted him by using physical force to detain him, assuming for the sake of argument that Officer Sidoti had the reasonable suspicion necessary to legally detain Mr. Golston, it is likely that a court would find that Officer Sidoti's limited use of force was reasonable. As the Supreme Court noted in the 1989 case of Graham versus Connor, quote, "Our Fourth Amendment jurisprudence has long recognized that the right to make an investigatory stop necessarily carries with it the right to use some degree of physical coercion or threat thereof to effect it." And in the infamous Terry case itself, the officer grabbed the suspect and physically spun him around before frisking him. Likewise, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which has jurisdiction over Ohio, stated in the 2001 case of U.S. versus Heath that, quote, "This circuit permits the use of force, such as handcuffs and guns, to effect a stop when such a show of force is reasonable under the circumstances of the stop." In this situation, Officer Sidoti used a less intrusive method of force than handcuffs and firearms, as he only grabbed Mr. Golston's arm, and he stated that he only used force after Mr. Golston refused to stop. Accordingly, a court would likely determine that the force used was reasonable, as long as Officer Sidoti had reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Golston.
You saw him assaulting me when you walked up. Am I right?
I don't see doing anything.
Absolutely.
All right.
You did.
Sir, I just need your ID. So
You're
I can
about
ID
you escalated this thing. You escalated it. We're not going back. This is a lawsuit now.
Okay. All right.
This is a lawsuit.
Sir, we got a call that you're.
And I'm suing you personally
We got a call
for putting your hands on me. I'm dressed to exercise. I do this every day. You're going to pay me.
That we were looking through people's vehicles. So
That's
I'm
no
responding to the
reason.
call.
That's no reason for you to put your hands on me.
You wouldn't
and
identify. You wouldn't stop and
you
talk
gave
to
me
You
no
wouldn't identify yourself
legal
that you're on
reason.
private property.
Name a legal reason.
Officer Sidoti explains that he stopped Mr. Golston based on a call that someone matching his description was looking through people's vehicles. And Mr. Golston argues that he should not have been stopped because Officer Sidoti did not personally observe him doing anything criminal. However, as the Supreme Court noted in the 2014 case of Navarrete versus California, it has, now quoting, firmly rejected the argument that reasonable cause for an investigative stop can only be based on the officer's personal observation, rather than on information supplied by another person. Therefore, it is possible for an officer to obtain the reasonable suspicion necessary to detain an individual based entirely on information reported by a third party. Now, although merely looking into vehicles is not a crime, this behavior could indicate potential future criminal activity, such as theft. And as the First District Court of Appeals of Ohio explained in the 2005 case of State versus Burnett, quote, "It is not necessary to justify a stop under Terry that any criminal activity have actually taken place. Indeed, the defendants in Terry had had not broken any law, but were doing nothing more than loitering on a corner in front of a bank. To effectuate a Terry stop, it is only necessary that the police have a reasonable, articulable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. In the Burnett case, the court agreed with the lower court's determination that officers had reasonable suspicion to detain an individual after a citizen reported that he was repeatedly walking up and down a street that had a history of thefts from autos and looking into car windows. In reaching this conclusion, the court argued that, quote, in a neighborhood with a high incidence of car break-ins, a stranger walking down the street, stopping to look through car windows is, by any objective measure, suspicious. However, in the 2007 case of Sri Sabath versus City of Brentwood, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals held that an officer did not have reasonable suspicion to conduct a Terry stop when he responded to an anonymous report of teenagers wearing baggy pants looking into cars in a parking lot. In this decision, the court strongly emphasized the fact that the tip was anonymous, and that it, now quoting, provided only a vague description of possible suspects, described no ongoing criminal activity, and offered no prediction of future activity that could be used to determine the tipster's veracity and reliability. As for the situation in this encounter, we do not have enough information to determine whether, under the totality of the circumstances, Officer Sidoti had reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Golston based on the report that he was looking into car windows, as it is unclear whether there had been a history of theft, or if the tip was anonymous, or offered information proving its reliability. And although the case law suggests that a report of an individual looking into car windows can provide reasonable suspicion in some instances, other precedent indicates that there are also situations where such a tip is insufficient to justify a Terry stop.
You should have thought this out before escalating it. Yeah, get Garfield here. I'm staying here now. This is a police report. Nah, bro, we're not going backwards from here. I'm sorry. Nothing personal against you.
Okay.
He should have never put his hands on me.
All right.
I have a legal right to defend myself when you do it. Either that badge does not give you the right to put your hands on me.
I got a call that you're looking to
You questioned me about it. What did I say?
I have a
What
right
did
to
I
identify
say?
you too. When I'm
You don't have
with you're on private property.
You don't have name the legal right that I have to identify. And I've committed no crime.
What's your reason of being here?
And I've committed no crime. I've told you several times.
Exercise.
I'm here every day.
You have no Cleveland Clinic business.
Let's see if this stands up in court. You can't grab people up on a say-so. You didn't see me. You observed me for at least 45 seconds to a minute. And I confirmed what you saw. Irrespective of what someone said. Irrespective of you getting a call.
Yeah.
You have to articulate what crime I've committed that I have to ID. I know my rights.
How you doing, sir?
How you doing? You Garfield?
Please, yeah, I'm Garfield.
My name is Keith Golston.
Nice to meet you, sir.
I want to file a police report. I got this guy on film assaulting me without probable cause, grabbing me, trying to twist my arm behind my back, putting his hands on me.
You know what yes, you have a right to do what you need to do, but this is a clinic, which means it's private. So if they ask you to do something, you gotta listen to them.
No. Let's test that legally.
Well, see, sir, this is a private.
I don't want to, bruh. It don't.
You're not even supposed to be filming here.
Bruh, you don't know what you're talking about because he's claiming you don't. You don't know what you're talking about. He just claimed that this was private property.
It is private property. Which means you have to do what they ask you to do.
No,
yes,
I do not.
You can't use this as a gym.
Hey, look.
I understand what you're saying. I do.
No, I can do anything I want to do, man.
This is a private
I
property.
can.
You're not supposed to be filming here.
Stop me then.
Well, see, that's where you go wrong. You can't. If I went to your house and you asked me not to do something,
this is not my house. We're outside in the public.
The security guard contends that filming in the parking lot is prohibited due to its private property status, whereas Mr. Golston asserts that he has the right to film because he is in a public space. As we've discussed many times on ATA, several federal appellate courts have acknowledged that the First Amendment protects certain aspects of the right to film in public, including the right to to record law enforcement officers while they are performing their official duties. For instance, in the 2000 case of Smith versus City of Cumming, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals held that, quote, "The First Amendment protects the right to gather information about what public officials do on public property, and specifically, a right to record matters of public interest. However, as we have discussed before here on ATA, the First Amendment only prohibits government actors from limiting speech and doesn't prevent private parties from restricting speech or forbidding certain types of speech, such as filming, on private property. As the Supreme Court explained in the 2019 case of Manhattan Community Access Corp. Versus Halleck, quote, "The Constitution does not disable private property owners and private lessees from exercising editorial discretion over speech and speakers on their property." Likewise, in the 1972 case of Lloyd Corp. Versus Tanner, the Supreme Court concluded that a shopping center could legally expel protesters, even though the center was open to the public and used for certain meetings and various promotional activities, stating that, quote, "There is no open-ended invitation to the public to use the center for any and all purposes, however incompatible with the interests of both the stores and the shoppers whom they serve." Here, the Cleveland Clinic is not a public government-owned hospital, and the private owner retains the right to regulate speech on its property. As such, it is almost certain that a court would determine that the Cleveland Clinic had the authority to prohibit filming on its premises, even though it is generally held open for public access.
If it's your property, then you got a right.
Whatever his name is, I'm filing a lawsuit for assault and battery.
So these guys, they have a right to talk to you.
He doesn't have a right to put his hands on me, bro. We were all right when we were talking.
I don't know what lead to that, but
I'll tell you
what lead to that? Why he?
I'll tell you what.
You know, if this guy,
bruh,
if this officer asks you to leave and you don't leave, that's a crime because they're going to be criminal trespass.
He didn't ask me to leave.
It's a private.
He didn't ask me to leave.
Place,
You're making stuff up now.
I'm not. That's why I asked you.
Do you have a supervisor here?
Yeah, we do have.
Okay, let me file a report with your supervisor. Now, I want to file a criminal complaint. You guys are the reporting officers.
No,
I want to file.
This is Cleveland Clinic.
Did he call you?
Yeah, they called us.
Y'all don't have no jurisdiction?
They are police department.
You want to file?
Where's the supervisor for Cleveland Clinic Police
Right now
Department?
it's me, but my supervisor's at home.
Who is here today besides you that I can make a report about this incident?
My partner, but
let's get him here.
He's not a supervisor. He's right here, right behind me.
What's your name, sir? We can talk now.
All right, what's going on, bro?
You heard what was going on?
Yeah, I heard what's going on.
Right.
All right. So do you want Marcus's number?
No, I want to get something legally on paper right now.
Do you want to write it down on a statement, or you may just write this down now? I'm gonna get your statements like that. Want me to go do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. You come with me.
Now I have business on the property, right? No, I'm talking to him.
I don't know what's going on, man. So he just grabbed you and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
I stopped and I talked to him and I let him know exactly what I was doing.
Yeah. I just wish.
We're gonna take it through the proper channels.
I'll give you my name. It's like that. You want to go somewhere else, or it's cool?
Yeah, I want to go sit down.
Yeah, let's go. Should never got that on too.
Mr. Golston followed Officer Buchanan into the hospital facility to file a report on the encounter, but it is unclear whether he spoke to anyone else regarding the incident or escalated his complaint. Additionally, although Mr. Golston stated several times during the encounter that Officer Sidoti's actions warranted a lawsuit and he would be filing one, we could not confirm whether he has pursued legal action or whether any disciplinary action has been taken against Officer Sidoti. Overall, Officer Sidoti gets a B-. Because although it is possible that a court would find he had the reasonable suspicion necessary to detain Mr. Golston, he overlooked opportunities to utilize less invasive methods of investigation into Mr. Golston's conduct, and he failed to de-escalate the situation once Mr. Golston made it clear that he was simply exercising. Regardless of whether or not Officer Sidoti had reasonable suspicion to detain and identify Mr. Golston, a less intrusive and arguably more effective investigatory approach would have been to simply observe Mr. Golston's behavior in the parking lot to determine if he was engaging in any criminal activity. Mr. Golston gets a B, Because although he demonstrated some misunderstandings regarding Terry stops, Ohio's identification laws, and the First Amendment, he respectfully but forcefully voiced his objections and strongly advocated for his constitutional rights. That being said, his refusal to identify himself potentially violated Ohio's stop and identify law, as it is possible that a court could determine that Officer Sidoti did have reasonable suspicion to detain him. Now, while I sympathize with Mr. Golston's frustration at being stopped for simply exercising in a parking lot, it is essential that citizens understand that there are situations where officers are authorized to detain or even arrest individuals who have not committed any crimes. Just as I do not have sufficient information to predict whether a court would conclude that Officer Sidoti had reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Golston, a citizen typically does not know everything that an officer stopping them knows. And this encounter demonstrates why it is often in a citizen's best interest to comply with officer identification demands in situations like this. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic that you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out Audit the Court if you're interested in exploring the legal nuance beyond the body cam.